Hey guys, it's Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and the title of today's video is How Churches Save Big by Switching to Voice over IP. How a church can save big by switching to a voice over IP phone system. Now, for those of you who don't know, I have literally worked with dozens and dozens of churches over the years, so I'm very familiar with churches as far as the technology needs, especially in regards to their communication. What types of phone systems typically work best with them, even down to what phone models from what brands tend to have the best synergy with the needs of churches, the communication of the congregation, and even churches that have missionaries that may be out of states and even overseas. Now, while we can all agree, for those of you who are watching this, that either the IT manager of a church, the senior pastor of a church, or you're like the head deacon or the head trustee or a decision-making person within the church congregation, while we can all agree that the technology is the latest and greatest technology and the right function features is important to a church, we can all agree that at the end of the day, because a church is for one, a nonprofit, and their money needs to go for a mission to the greater good versus to the technology, that the bottom line is the most important thing at the end of the day. So for those of you who are watching that are thinking maybe it's time to switch to VOIP, or maybe it's time to switch to a better or less expensive voice over IP phone system provider, I would encourage you to take notes. Get a pen and paper, a pad, take notes, because I'm going to go over several points of exactly how a voice over IP phone system will save you quite a bit of money within your church. So let's get started and let's just jump right in. So first and foremost, point number one, I've said this in some previous videos that we've done, some specific to churches and some specific to why aren't you using voice over IP in the first place. If you're paying for analog phone lines or you're using a traditional phone system, what we call a key phone system, or a traditional PBX, I can tell you right now you're already paying too much. Now, for those of you who are watching that are curious to know whether you're paying too much, I always encourage you to send me your phone bill, because I can actually tell you what you would save if you switch to VoIP. But for the purposes of simplicity, we're going to go into an example so I can explain to you guys exactly where the savings is. So any of you that are watching this that run a church that are using regular analog lines, say from the carriers such as Comcast, Verizon, Cox Communications, Spectrum Business, Suddenlink, the list goes on and on and on, and depends on the region you're in. If you're using regular analog phone lines right now, at the time of watching this video, you are probably paying somewhere within the realm of about $38 to as high as $42 to $45 per analog phone line before taxes. Now, let me explain where some of the immediate immense savings is in switching to voice over IP. We're going to use me as an example. So within my business, we use a voice over IP phone system, of course. We have for years, for almost 8 years now. And while I do have multiple extensions and multiple persons within the company, we're going to use my single extension, which is extension number 402. My single extension, extension number 402, I pay $19.99 per month for that extension. It's an actual physical Polycom phone. I have professional voicemail. I have an auto attendant so people can dial by name to get me. They can dial my extension. I have music on hold, auto attendant, call transfer. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Do not disturb, you name it. It's somewhere within about 40 to 50 features that any typical, high-level Fortune 500 company or new age 21st century phone system would have. I've got all that in that one phone for $19.99 a month. Now, here's where the bigger savings comes into play. Not only do I have the full features of a typical new age phone system that you would expect, I have a Polycom VBX 300, which is a 6-line IP phone. That means with that one phone, I have access to 6 simultaneous phone lines, 6 incoming or outgoing phone calls I can place. I can be on the phone with 3 people and receive 3 more incoming calls, or put those other 3 people on hold. That's 6 lines for the price of $19.99 a month. Now, for those of you who are watching, you already know If you were to, with your current carrier, with your current analog carrier, have 6-line capability, that would literally cost you somewhere around 6 times anywhere from $35 to $45 or more before taxes per month. It would be in the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So right off the bat, switching, especially if you're a church that's watching this that has a lot of phone lines, like you've got 10 phone lines on your bill statement with whoever your carrier is, or 6 phone lines or something like that, or as high as 20 or 30 phone lines. You switching to voice over IP would not only give you a better phone system solution that's got all the bells and whistles and phones on the desk and all that, you would literally save hundreds, if not over $1,000 or more dollars a month for a better solution. So anyways, that's point number 1. If you're using old school analog lines, you're already paying too much. If you're not sure, like I said, my door's always open. Send me your phone bill and I'll take a look and I'll tell you whether you're spending too much, and I should be able to give you a pretty good figure on how much voice over IP would save you on the phone bill. Take me 5 minutes to do it because I do it all day long. Point number 2, traditional PBXs, or old school phone systems as I call it, they're not free. I get called all the time and people will say, well, why should I switch to voice over IP that has a monthly cost when I could just, go ahead and pay the $5,000, go ahead and pay the $10,000, or if you're a larger church that's watching this, it'd be in the tens of $1,000s. But the point is, many always come to me, not just churches, but other industries come to me and say, well, why should I switch to voice over IP on a monthly bill when I can just buy my phone system outright and own it? You still never own your phone system. Here's why. Voice over IP doesn't require actual analog phone lines. It uses the internet. Your church is an organization and has the same appliances and has the same needs to some degree internally from the administration side as any other business. So you're never going to get rid of your internet. You always need internet with any business, no matter what you are, whether you're nonprofit or for-profit. With the voice over IP phone system, it doesn't need phone lines. It only needs internet. With a traditional phone system, going back to the question people say, well, why would I pay a monthly fee for voice over IP when I could just buy a phone system and own it outright and have no monthly cost? Wrong. You still need phone lines to actually run that system. So then you run into the problem that we were just discussing in point number 1, as you're paying more for analog phone lines than what typically any voice over IP phone system is going to cost you. Typically, you're paying anywhere from 60% to even 100% more for analog phone service than what voice over IP would cost you. So for those of you watching thinking, why should I switch to voice over IP and have a monthly cost when I could just buy my own phone system, and even though it may be a lump sum, I only have to pay it once? You're still going to be on the hook for the analog phone lines forever. So that's one thing that you just can't get around that. One other point I'd like to make about the whole, why shouldn't I just own my phone system? It's just like a car. With a traditional PBX, or what we call an in-house voice over IP solution that's not a hosted voice over IP solution, which is what we recommend, you still have to maintain that. It's not maintained by the service provider like with the voice over IP carriers. If lightning strikes and the motherboard in the system goes bad, you got to replace that. That's thousands of dollars there, if you can even find the parts, because the systems are so archaic, nobody even makes parts for them anymore. So just keep that in mind. No phone system is free, not even one that you buy outright, even a voice over IP one. Because if it's an in-house voice over IP, you still have to pay the major carriers for phone lines, which are going to cost you more in the long run. And that's even before you get to maintenance and parts and having to have your IT support guy come out and do on-site maintenance and so on and so forth. Point number 3. Let's see here. System changes to a voice over IP phone system can be done on the fly, in the cloud, or by the provider at no extra cost. This is huge. For those of you who are watching that currently have a traditional PBX or in the past had one in your church, you already know that whenever you wanted to make changes, whether it was add a new phone, change how the call routing happens within the organization when somebody comes in, change some internal settings for a new employee that's either come on board or for somebody that you've had to let go and you've had to make changes with their voicemail or whatever it may be. It's not free. You've always had to have somebody like the telecommunications service, the local telecommunications service provider that you had installed the system originally, or your IT provider charge you some sort of hourly rate or some sort of monthly retainer to be able to make those changes. With voice over IP phone systems, everything is done in the cloud. The even better, most of the systems these days, they have been designed so intuitively to where you yourself, as long as you have the login for the system, which you should if you purchase the system, you can actually go in and make basic, even advanced changes yourself, such as adding new employees, deleting old staff members, redirecting an old staff member's voicemail to the replacement staff person or to the senior pastor or whoever it may be, so that that person, even though they're gone or maybe on sick leave or maternity leave, you can still get their voicemails and handle their communication. Those types of changes and even more advanced changes like automated changes in the auto attendant messages for holiday messages like Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter and things like that. These are actually changes that you can go into the system and do on your own that don't require any high-level technical expertise. And so that means that changes to the system, basic and advanced, essentially become free for the long haul. Now, if you're somebody who's watching this and you're thinking, you know what, I'm old school or I'm not very tech savvy, no problem. We work with all the carriers, and I can tell you all of them, it's literally as simple as picking up the phone and calling in and say, hey, I'm account number such and such. I don't know how to do this, or I don't feel like making this change. Could you just log into my system really quick and make this change? And it's done. The other beauty about voice over IP as far as making these types of changes, not only is it free for the life of the system, they're done more quickly. With older systems, it's a thing where you've got to schedule time to order. You've got to order parts. Then you've got to schedule time for your IT guys to come on site or whatever it is to make changes to the system. With voice over IP systems, it's literally done in the cloud and the changes are made in real time. It's not active in days or weeks. It's active in less than minutes. So that's one thing there is changes can be made on the fly without any expertise, without any technical expertise needed, cutting back on unnecessary labor costs, and or you can do it yourself or have the carrier do it for you, saving you lots and lots of time and money. Point number 4, and this is a big one. No local or U.S. nationwide long distance charges anymore. And for those of you who are watching that not only maybe have churches or associates throughout the United States or throughout a specific state or region, if you've got missionaries and things like that that are overseas, voice over IP systems these days, pretty much all the carriers, first of all, they have dramatically reduced international calling rates compared to what the carriers charge on your traditional analog phone lines or traditional PBX when you call out. We're talking anywhere from about like 10% to 30% less on the per minute rate charge of what the current analog carriers charge for you to call overseas and things like that. Even better, voice over IP phone systems allow for the ability for you to purchase a phone or purchase an actual extension with a voicemail and everything for, let's say, a missionary family that you may have that is overseas in Nicaragua or overseas in Panama or in Mexico or whatever country it may be. You can actually get another extension for this person, which would typically run you around about another like $19.99 to $24.99 a month for the system with all the features included. Ship that phone to this person, and you can actually call this person from the church as if it were a local phone call with your normal area code or by simply dialing a 3 or 4 digit extension to get them. More importantly, it gives them an ability to be able to call back to the United States, back home to talk to family, talk to associates, handle personal business and affairs that it's in the States, and it doesn't cost them anything. It looks and appears and feels like a local call when this person calls back to the States and when you or people associated with them call them from the States. They wouldn't even know that they're overseas. So that's a huge, huge savings for churches that may have missionaries or associates that are overseas. Now back to the local and U.S. long distance. For those of you who know who are currently using analog phone lines or you're currently using a traditional phone system, you're probably already paying like a per minute rate or something to call out of state or call out of your area. There's two areas of savings here. First of all, you have, with voice over IP phone systems, all of them that I know of, and we represent pretty much all of them these days, there's no such thing as local long distance. You can call anywhere in the United States locally. That would mean cities outside of your zip code. That would mean states outside of your church's home state. So there would be literally no long distance charges there. That's a savings in itself right there. More importantly, number two, if you're a church that's watching this that has been always paying for, say, a 1-800 number for people to call you from outside of the state and not incur long distance fees, you could eliminate that local that 1-800 number, and basically they could call you locally and you could call them locally. So that's another plus there, and a big savings for local US long distance as well as international long distance. Let's see here. Point number 5, and I want to elaborate on this one a little bit more. This one kind of flows into point number 4, but we're going to elaborate. As I mentioned before, free calling to locations for missionaries or persons abroad that are handling affairs for churches abroad. Because we're associated with a lot of churches, and also I travel quite a bit, I run into missionaries all the time. Missionaries in the United States, missionaries overseas. I've ran into many missionaries in the Latin Americas that are associated with churches in the United States all over. One of the ways that they enjoy being able to, for free, at no extra cost to them or the church, be able to talk to family and friends in the United States, and also have family and friends and church officials be able to communicate with them overseas, is again through voice over IP. This is because a voice over IP phone system, it doesn't care about your location. It's all set up in the cloud, and as far as the configuration in the system is concerned, everybody is local, meaning everybody could dial an extension to the person next to them as if they're all in cubicles. But this means if you had, say, 20 phones that were set up for your church, you could put 5 of them in one location, let's say in Alabama. You could put another 5 in one location at another church branch that's in California. You could put your third group of 5 phones into, say, another church location that's in Virginia. And then you could have your other group of 5 phones scattered amongst 5 different missionaries that live in 5 separate countries doing the work of the church. The system doesn't care about location. It doesn't look at location. It looks at the way that they're configured. And as long as the system is configured correctly, which most of the service providers will do for you for free as part of signing on board with them, you can quite literally dial extensions or dial direct numbers with a regular US area code back and forth to all of the different people and incur 0 long distance charges. I'll say that again, 0 long distance charges for calling internationally to multiple countries in and out of the United States, back and forth, incoming and outgoing calls. That's a huge savings, especially for churches that have multiple branches throughout the United States and multiple missionaries throughout the world. Point number 6, and this is a big one, and this is probably one of the big ones that I get asked about. Let's be real. For those of you who are watching, you're in the business of doing God's work. You're not in the business of being a technology expert like me or being some sort of like IT savvy person. So you're probably wondering, okay, Prince, this sounds really super advanced and awesome, but how in the world do I set this up? Don't worry about that. All of the providers that I know of, and we represent them all, basically will set this all up for you. These systems are plug and play. These things are quite literally, they send you the phones pre-configured to the way that you discussed you wanted your phone dial plan to work in and out. They send them to you pre-configured. You plug them into a valid internet connection throughout your office or home office, throughout your church administration area or offices or home office. And then that's it. It's plug and play. As long as you already have the internet wiring in place, which most businesses do these days, you're literally plug and play. Once the system is plugged up, if you want to change the original way that your system was set up or how things ring or how calls get routed to, church officials and this and that, that's a simple phone call to your carrier to just say, hey, we want to test out a different dial plan. Can you do this? And they'll do it for you. You don't have to do it. Now, There is one thing that I want to throw out there that I think is of great importance. I was always taught you never delegate something to somebody that you can't do yourself. Now, I'm not saying that every single church official within the church should know how to configure the phone system, but I do think it's important that certain persons, like, the husband and wife, the senior pastor and first lady of the church, should be trained on the basics of the phone system, the ins and outs, so that you know how to do some things on your own and that you know how to control your phone system. But if you're somebody who really isn't interested in all of that, while the voice over IP providers will train you at no cost at any time, that's included with their service, they will pre-configure and make changes long-term in your system for you. So easy setup, plug and play, and you've got support from the provider for the long haul to basically make basic and advanced changes for you for as long as you have their service and their phone system. So no IT savvy, skills required to make the switch. Point number 7, and this is the final point, is free phones and free installation. Back to the whole reason of this video, how voice over IP will save a church a lot of money. I'm going to say it again. Free business phones, we're talking Polycom, Link, Grandstream, Cisco, and free installation. Let's start with the free phones. Most of the carriers want your business. The carriers are not in business to sell phones. They're not Amazon. They're not Best Buy. They're not buy.com. They're not in the business of making profit off selling equipment. They're in the business of making money off selling their service. It's just like the cellular carriers. For those of you who are watching that have cell phones or may have business cell phone plans for the church, you know how the carriers, they'll typically give you iPhones or give you Androids for free or for 50% off or even higher than 50% off to get you on the service. It's because they don't make money off the phones. They don't care to sell the cell phones. They want to sell their service. The voice over IP carriers are no different. Pretty much all of them that I work with have some sort of free phones or phone subsidization plans to where if you need 2 phones or 200 phones, they will give you those phones to get on their service. Again, I'm not talking some crappy phones. We're talking phones like Polycom, Link, Grandstream, Cisco. We've done many reviews of many of these phones on other videos in our YouTube channel. So what does that mean? If you're somebody who's watching that needs more than 1 or 2 phones, this is hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of savings. I've got churches that I've worked with that we were able to get 6 free phones. I've got churches I've worked with that we got 60 free phones, 45 free phones, you name it. The average voice over IP phone, I want to say, costs somewhere in the ballpark of anywhere from about $130 to about $175, with your cream of the crop phones being $230 to $500 and up. Most people typically shoot for average advanced phones that are between $130 and $175. If you're somebody who's watching and you're a church that has 50 phones, you do the math. Most of these carriers, especially if you go through me, I'm going to get you the phones at no extra charge. They're going to be for free along with the service agreement. It will save you thousands of dollars up front. More importantly, free installation. As we already discussed in point number 6, these phone systems are plug and play. So there really is no installation. As long as you've got internet in your church or church locations or building or home office or whatever it is, you're ready to go. These phones are already ready to go, pre-configured to be plugged into your existing internet. So free phones, no installation, huge savings. So to conclude this video, if you're a church and you're watching this video and you're thinking, we want to switch to voice over IP, or maybe it's time for us to switch to a different carrier or switch from an old, expensive, or antiquated PBX, give me a shout. I represent all the carriers. I'll talk with you to find out what you're spending, first of all, so I can show you what immediate savings we can get you on paper. Then I will literally go to the carriers for you, find out which ones will give you equipment subsidized to keep your costs low, find out which ones have the best features for what your specific needs for your church may be, and then we'll go, I'll basically be your guy that will go to bat for you and get you the best pricing with the carriers that we look at and get you quotes for your approval, the pastor's approval, or board approval. So again, Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, your go-to guy for the best deals on business phone and internet service in the United States. I'll catch you guys again in the next video.